Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Joe here. Thanks for visiting my channel. Please click on the link below so that you can subscribe to my channel. As well, please don't forget to click on the bell notification icon so that you can receive any videos and updates that I'm uploading to YouTube. In this video today, I wanted to go over the recent chemical attacks or alleged chemical attacks that happened in Syria. And the US has came out, especially President Trump, saying that Bashar al-Assad's regime has used chemical weapons in this recent attack and killed over 40 to 50 innocent civilians and hundreds are injured and wounded. Now, this is a very similar situation that happened, I believe, a few months ago when a very similar incident has happened where chemical attack has been alleged. Videos of pictures of children being gassed and horrific pictures, and President Trump again blamed Bashar al-Assad. There was some US strikes again on an air base in Syria. Now, these two events have two very close similarities. Basically, this is always happening when the Syrian armed forces are coming to a point to attack or finish off ISIS in Syria. Now, many people on the right, right commentary or Republican conservative voices, many conservative voices, have come up and condemned Trump for this move. And why should we get involved and fight? Why are we bombing the regime? Who is fighting ISIS? And why should we, let them take care of this problem? We don't have to be involved as a United States involved in this issue. Now, the main reason why why President Trump is doing these attacks right after very close situations where the Syrian army is almost getting rid of ISIS or taking key positions away from ISIS is we have to look at the bigger picture in the Middle East. And the bigger picture is that right now in Syria there's three main factions. There's three main supporters of the regime. There's Iran, the Iranian regime. There is Bashar al-Assad, who already had some sort of military power and presence and organization prior to this war. And there's Russia. These three key factors are very strong forces in the Middle East now, changing the demographics in terms of power. So we have to look at this perspective and see what's happening and why is the US reacting in such a way. In situations like this, we have to always look at the bigger picture. If the US allows Bashar al-Assad to win this war against ISIS, what is going to happen? Well, you may say, okay, well, we got rid of a terrorist organization who's claimed many, many lives and are barbaric. They don't want the destruction of anyone who is against them and against their belief. We have to look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that Iran has gained lots of immense power with support of Russia, with the support of other factions and groups to infiltrate many Middle Eastern countries such as Lebanon, such as Palestine, and a bigger threat now, I guess, in terms of its presence is in the Yemen region with the Houthiyun, who are supportive of the Iranian country and against the Saudi Arabians. So the United States' key ally, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Kuwait, and many other Middle Eastern countries are being sort of sieged around or besieged by this Iranian influence militarily, politically, financially. So the United States knows that if Bashar al-Assad wins this war, and yes, peace will be present in Syria per se, but as well the presence of this 40-year, 50-year of dictatorship and other situations happening in the Middle East will persist and will continue on, especially with this new influence, this Iranian influence happening around the region. So Saudi Arabia, which is the US number one ally in the Middle East, is feeling itself pressured and is calling on, for example, countries like Lebanon to stand up to Hezbollah party because Hezbollah has gained a lot of political strength as well, matched up with its military strength. So this is creating a big situation already in Lebanon for many years, a bipolar situation between the Lebanese state, the Lebanese army, and we have Hezbollah, who has political representatives in the Lebanese parliament, political force in the Lebanese country, in Lebanon, but as well has a military force which is extensive. It's equivalent, or maybe even at times can surpass the Lebanese army. So if we look at the Lebanese army, has been now funded heavily by France, by Britain, and by the United States to sort of almost match up with this military force that is growing and growing in the south of Lebanon. We have conservative voices coming out like Paul Joseph Watson and whatnot, and other, Alex Jones, and saying that it's the most stupid move that Trump can do to bombard Syria and Syrian armed forces when they're about to get rid of ISIS. But we have to again look at the bigger picture, and we have to look at that the United States, whether we like it or not, is dependent on Middle Eastern policy. And what's going to happen, yes, ISIS is declaring war, is declaring a holy war, and threatening anyone who is against their religious belief or creed. But we also have to look at the other side. If this war is allowed to finish off where Iran wins, Syria wins, Russia, and their influence in the Middle East, how is this going to affect people in the United States? You may say, okay, it's not going to affect us. But there is definitely a weapon transfer happening to the Middle East. The United States can't just leave its allies sort of being attacked or bombed or bombarded on almost a daily basis. You can look at it in terms of Saudi Arabia feeling itself pressured and under a lot of pressure from this movement that's happening, this Persian or Iranian movement around the Gulf states. So they've become very strong. There's an imbalance of power, and you may say, okay, it's not going to affect us here, but eventually it's going to affect the United States in one way or form. First with its allies Saudi Arabia and Israel, which are now being faced with almost like not in the past may have been just a local threat with the Palestinians, Hamas, and Hezbollah, but now it's becoming a global threat with many big countries like Iran, Russia, and many others that are supporting this creed to surround the Gulf, surround the smaller countries such as Lebanon, Israel, and Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, to import this influence or import this sort of export of violence, export of weapons. So we have to look at it that way. In the long term, it's not going to benefit the United States if its allies are surrounded and besieged and feeling threatened for their livelihood, if they're being attacked or even bombarded. So this is going to end up, I see, hopefully not, but in a very large, big-scale war if the teams such as Russia, United States don't actually sit down on a table and come to an agreement in terms of who is going to control this country called Syria right after this war is done. ISIS, we know, is a decoy. ISIS is not a creation on its own. ISIS is being supported by many other factions. It's being it's been sort of instigated to be created over the last 40 years because they've been persecuted. The Sunnis per se have been persecuted in Syria, in Lebanon. We have to look at the Sunni faith. There is a progressive movement, the Future Movement, led by the late Prime Minister Hariri's son, Saad Hariri. But we have to look at how the Sunnis are feeling in these countries, such as Syria, such as Lebanon, such as the Gulf. They're feeling that they're being persecuted. They're trying to be peaceful at it. They're trying to react in a peaceful manner. But what happened is this staying quiet for all these years and not having any sort of ability to speak out, not having ability to repress the oppression created violent and radical movement called ISIS, because they believe that no one is speaking their voice per se. They can't. They're being persecuted in such countries such as Syria for many years, such as Lebanon, especially after the assassination of Rafiq Hariri, where the fingers were directly pointing to Assad regime, were directly pointing to the Iranian influence. So although many stories have come in and out of the whole situation, but Prime Minister Hariri was a prominent Sunni leader, and he was then assassinated brutally with many other people, innocent bystanders, in 2004. So we have to look at it that way, that this situation is not what you think. Yes, we may get rid of ISIS now, but we have United States has bigger problems surrounding it, as the influence of Iran, of Syria, and Russia are colluding into spreading this message, or spreading their influence in the Middle East through weapon transfer, ballistic missiles, and whatnot. So that's just my commentary. What I believe, that the response by the United States is not sort of crazy, it's not sort of out of normal, it's a reason behind it. It's not just because they all of a sudden they just want to keep ISIS. No one wants to keep ISIS, but now you're in a catch-22 situation. If you keep ISIS, then you have terrorism. You have this brutal group growing and spreading its influence, its black and evil presence. But then if you get rid of them, what do you have on the other hand? You may have bigger problems on the longer run for your allies and for your country. So that's what I believe the situation is regarding the recent bombing of the air bases in Syria. So please, guys, let me know what you in the comments below what you think. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share. Again, this is just my commentary, and tell me what you think. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.